Roll number 62 present, sir.
sir.
Sir, 64 number is present.
Okay, Murthy. Hello, sir. Number one.
हो झालं झालं.
Hello. बरं का, एक मिनिट. हो. हॅलो. हॅलो.
जेवल्यानंतर उलट्या विचार करा.
then why the slide is not coming? Ask if just
Yes, roll 23.
there is a slide. This active would come up there.
Yes, sir.
Sir, please read the bio.
Okay.
Ask if they keep it like this.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Am I
Yes.
audible to all?
Yes, sir. Yes, audible.
Okay.
Ask.
A very good afternoon to one and all. I, Dr. Gayal Baliram Sambhaji, working as an assistant professor in the Department of ENTC Engineering, RMD Siyangad School of Engineering, Pune. A very warm welcome to everyone to this session of the 16th Online Faculty Induction Program organized by Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Marathwada University, Chhatrapati Sambhaji Nagar, under the aegis of University Grant Commission, Malviya Mission Teachers Training Center. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce today's distinguished speaker, Dr. Raymond Martin, sir. Professor Raymond Martin, sir, is a professor and head Department of Zoology, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Marathwada University, Sambhajinagar, and director of the Center for Coastal and Marine Biodiversity, Ratnagiri. He has over 34 years of teaching and 37 years of research experience in the field of life sciences. He completed his bachelor's and master's degree from Savitribai Phule, Pune University, Pune, and earned his PhD from Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Marathwada University in 1990. He is a gold medalist in MSc Entomology and a recipient of the DST Young Scientist Award. He has been elected Fellow of the Zoological Society of India and Fellow of the National Environmental Association and was recognized as a distinguished scientist in life sciences at the Global Science Congress, Kathmandu. His research areas include invertebrate endocrinology, invertebrate immunology, and biomolecular interaction. He has guided 9 PhD scholars and is currently mentoring 7. Sir has completed major research project funded by UGC and DST and holds a published patent in biotechnology. Professor Martin has published 52 research papers, 9 book chapters, and 11 books, and delivered more than 25 invited talks. He has served in several academic and administrative positions, including Director, UGC HRDC, Dean of Science, and Chairman of the Board of Studies, and has contributed extensively to curriculum development and research evaluation at the national and international levels. We are indeed honored to have Dr. Raymond Martin, sir, such as a distinguished speaker with us to grace this 16th online faculty induction program today. I now request Dr. Raymond Martin, sir, to kindly take over the session. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Baliram Sambhaji, for a wonderful introduction of mine. And I hope that the afternoon session will be a good session for all of us. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah. And can I share the file?
Yes.
Can you see the slides?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay, then I think we can continue with it without wasting any time. Now, though you know that I'm a professor of zoology and I had been working on this field for last about 37 years, and you'll find that the lecture which I'm going to take is a privilege lecture for the 16th FIP program of the UGC HRDC once I headed it. Today, the lecture is not on zoology, but the lecture is exploring ourselves through history of education to modern identity. We all are teachers and we know that education and educating to our students are one of the most important challenges that we have it. If you look the journey, I'm going to speak something of anthropology, history, then education, and all that will be, I will try to keep it as interesting as possible. The journey begins who are we? And if you know that our civilization is something about 500 years, and we belong to a civilization which we call as the Indus Valley civilization, which existed something about 3300 to about 1300 BC. When you compare our civilization to the contemporary civilization that existed in the ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, you'll find that 2500 BCE, during that period, also the ancient Egypt as well as the Mesopotamia civilization existed. So it appears that we are older than those civilizations. If you look into the archaeological aspects of the studies, we'll find that have inhabited something about 73,000 to 65,000 years ago. And they settled and they were wanderers basically during that time. But we find the settlement of the human was something about 4,500 BCE. So that is the archaeological finding. So we know that the humans have existed some 73,000. So you know that our civilization is 5,000 years. So we find that during that period of civilization of 3300, that is Indus Valley civilization, they were highly advanced, particularly in the technologies like metallurgy, sophisticated crafts, and were aware of the early form of governance. If you look into that, who were the people who lived in India? You find a settlement, how well planned the settlement that archaeological studies have shown us. You find that 7,000 years ago, that is about 5000 BCE, that period was called as a Neolithic, that is the Stone Age or modern Stone Age, or the Age of Copper, where the village were being formed into communities. The diagram that you can see here, archaeological one, you will find that people were surviving or living in a form of communities. And this suggests that the farmlands which we find in different places, it indicate that these people were doing early agricultural settlement, one, or they were hunter and gatherers. These populations started to develop a complex culture, perhaps before the mature herpent phase. Now, if you see that when we live in a community, we normally speak. When did we originally start to speak? We believe that those people that came to India or the land of India, they arrived here basically during the Bronze Age, about 1,000 years after this period, and they were involved in the farming. And those early people that who came here were in fact the Proto-Indo-Europeans, from where the language spread out to, to Latin, Quator, which gave rise to Portuguese, Spanish, and French, Italian, a group of Proto Germanic to German, Dutch, Danish, Swedish, and English, and another one group that gave rise to Albanian, then Greek, Armenian, Welsh, then Proto Celtic to Breton, Irish, then Proto Baltic Slavic to Proto Slavic, Russian, Ukrainian, Polish, and Croatians, then Latvian and Lithuanian. So, thus you find the Proto Indo Europeans, the one which they spread out with the languages started with it. So, if you look into the Hipparian, Harpen communities, these communities belong to a new Stone Age and the Copper Age. As I told you, the village were run by maximum mainly by the farmers and pastoralists, that is, herding and farming. But one thing was obvious that the Harpen civilization had no formal education. And this is a site that has been observed in the Haryana Kunal village, archaeologically site, which indicate the well-planned city where the people could live. But the studies indicate that it is nothing to do with no formal education types has been found there. If you look into who were the first human that they came to India, we know that it is an Homo sapiens, something that they evolved about 2 million years back in Africa. And these Homo sapiens, they were basically gatherers, hunters and gatherers. They came to India about 60,000 years ago. And that movement that coming from the Africa is called as the migration, Great African Migration. We also find later the people migrated from Iran and Central Asia. And you'll find that those people, the descendants, are also seen in India in the form of Adivasis of modern Indian population. Now, where are these Indians today? If these Adivasis that came as a modern Indian population, where are they now? We know that they are present, they are dwelling, they've been pushed into the hilly region by the later arrivals. The scientifically, the most important finding that they got it, particularly about in 2023, where the mitochondrial DNA showed a strong link to African lineage with other markers that point to Iranian and Central Asia influences. So it is not solely that the African lineage is responsible or that we evolved from African lineages, but we also find that apart from the African lineage, we also find the Iranian population, and also the Central Asia influences. Thus, it suggests that we are having a complex genetic tapestry, and that has been formed about the millions of years. So, the most of us are actually the mixture of three ancestral populations: the Iranian, African, and Central Asia. So you'll find that as a hunter gatherers who live on the land for tens of thousands of years, farmers with Iranian ancestry arrived sometime about 4700 to 3000 BCA, and herders from the central Eurasia of the steppe region who stepped into the region sometime about 3000 before Christ, perhaps between 1900 to 1500 BC. So the present population from 60,000 of years old to this place, we are finding about 1900 to 1500 BCE. Now, how is it that we are sure we are sure about it by the groups of farmer ancestry which shows the artistic transitions and laid the foundation for sophisticated Indus Valley civilization. Yeah, I find some disturbances. You just look into it. Now, this is a study which indicate that something came from Africa, we came all from Africa, and we spread out from Africa some 50 to 60,000 years ago out of the Africa migration. And these archic and the models which you get it here is on the DNA. Then sometimes about 10,000 years ago, we find that the Iranian pastoral South Asian and steppes people, they came they came to India nearly about 10,000 years ago. So genes are here is mixed gene. And then another population they came out that was from the steppe of Central Asia, and we find that there is a mixing took place, and thus we find a mixed gene, a strong founder events are found. So this marking indicate that we are mixed adjust mixture is there either from Africa, the South Asia, Iranian or steppes or Central Asia. So three times our gene mix-up took place, and presently that we show that we have only 70% of the genes are with these sharing with them, and 30% of the shares genes which is not shared by the these people. So originality is only 30%. 70% of the genes are already been found out. Now, once from where these people came, the Iranian farmers basically they appear to have come from Zogras region. This is a region of Caspian Sea, Turkmenistan, central Iran, and somewhere between this, the Persian Gulf and Iraq, present day Iraq, you find Zagros region, and this is very near to the Arabian Plate. So the Zagros region of Iran, it was something about 70,000 to 3000 BCE, and these people were well trained for the farming activity. And you find that these people appears to be the one who mixed with the earlier inhabitants living in India to form what is called as the Harappan civilization. So you find that the later migrant, those who came to the different places, some 1500 back here, you find it here. This is the region where it has been distributed. So the Central Asia Indo-Aryan migrations has ethno-linguistic group, Indo-Aryan people. They spoke about very old or Vedic Sanskrit, and they appear to have influenced the culture. So Indo-Aryans entry, you're finding it from the very steppes and region of Europe. So from Europe it is coming. This is India. This area that you're getting it here is the area, and you find that this is coming from the unique places. Thus, it is forming. We calling it as a Aryan migrations. So from where they did the Indo-Aryan migration that they arrived or came to India. Many historians believe that the Aryans probably came from the Central Asia, and they moved to India from the Himalayas, and they arrived something about 1500 BC, and they themselves started settling down, and they developed what is called as the Aryan culture. And for several centuries, the Aryan tribes they moved to the Ganges River Valley, and they pushed the Dravidian people further south. So by 900 BC, Aryans had formed city-state in the major river valley. So you'll find that the Aryans they came, and the local population what was there before their arrival, those people were being pushed down, and that we call it as a present day Dravidians. So a completely new form of the races is coming, which you are getting it from the steppe, Central Asia, then you are getting it from the Aryan side. That is something is happening in 7350 BC. Though this, from where did these Aryans they originated, we have no references. We have it, but we presume that they had come only because of the archaeological record. But the presence of them, that records are not available, what how they were and how they were doing it. But we find that they carried a sacred literature, which we call as Vedas, that was fairly reliable picture of their life, which tell us something about how these people used to be there and living there. So you'll find that in India, basically, the whole of these tribal populations, you'll find these all are the tribal population that have been pushed to the hilly regions throughout the present India. I'm talking about this as a present India and comparing with what the India was some about 5,000 years back. So the tribal population in India in the various states are shown here. The dwindling population needs to be protected from extinction, and reason is that we all know that these Adivasis, which they basically now guard our forest, and they are also helpful for maintaining our ethnobotanical issues or ethnobotany of this country. So you can take an example of the people who living in Nasik tribal region, or in Uti tribal region, or in Kerala the tribal region, or Punjab tribal region, or in the northeast states. So all these things are very important for our understanding how these people have been pushed. You find the pockets of people, or even in that case, you take the example of Andaman and Nicobar Island, the people who are living it. Still, those some of the native population, till today, they do not intermix with the other people. They don't even recognize the our people now. So you find that some of the pictures of those tribals, which was pushed something about 60,000 years back, where the genes have been highly conserved. These genes have adapted to what is called as a as a community living, and they are now protecting the jungles, and they rarely mix up with the present population and live in a hilly region. They are completely cut off from the normal life. With the very important thing is that they have maintained.
तर ए बाई ती मार्च करायला होईल का जास्त लगेच करू ना अजून एक तास चार्जर आहे ना तुझं हाय कनेक्ट करून देते याला
So you find that those people are still living in India, and we they have been accepted to us for all the most of the genetic studies that we are carrying out. Now, when we talk about the issues when we came to India, when the first people were there, what was this country was known, everything we do not know. If you look into this India graph, you'll find that site of Indo-Greek embassies, free kingdoms, and Suguna Empire, Satavahana Empire, Alexander's, Etruscans, Taxila, Sangla, Indo-Greek kingdom. You'll find it here, and here is some aspect is of India. Now the question is, when did the term India came into existence? Indian name India came to existence something 2,400 years ago, and they derived their name from the river Sindhu, or it is also called.
आणि ते मर्ज करून लगेच पाठवून देऊ वाटत तसं अपलोड करायचं मला पण.
And since the 5th century BC, this name was continued till today, and the first reference of the term India, you get it in the Herodotus histories. And the Indian Indus Valley civilization is sometime it is older than 3,100 years ago.
नाही डिस्कनेक्टेड
Is this clear to you? Can you see the slide?
Yes, sir.
येस सर येस
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And are you comfortable with for understanding?
हे कॅम स्कॅनर मध्ये हे का बरं येते येस सर
Is it comfortable? Can you understand?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So once a community has been formed 3,000 years back, 5,000 years back, then you find that something about 40,000 to 30,000 years ago, when the people started to live, they had some kind of a spiritual belief. And they had some practices which has been found. Now, how did we know? We have observed this thing about in the caves, in cave painting, also the burial practice, and also the belief of the spiritual world. During this is the Stone Age. You're talking about the Stone Age. So the religion, the first religion, appears to have appeared during the Paleo Old Stone Age, Lithoceramic Stone Age. So that is markings. The figures are drawings. You'll find it in the cave. Not only that, there are people which are called as the shamanism. That is the shamans. They are the community leaders. They act as intermediaries between the physical and the spiritual world. So there are people. So these people will explain to some people the mighty power of the uh, earth, or then they correlate with the spiritual understandings. So those people have been regarded in a high esteem in that particular small society. So it appears that the religion appeared from those area. Some of these paintings, if you see, you'll find that the they are indicating that there is a life, after death. Then also there is a Paleolithic period. You also find there is a burial rituals. Then they had experience of altered state of consciousness, and they had a rituals, strength and social bonding in the group cohesion. During the new Stone Age, they begin to increase the masculinization of the religious deity. So this is an example of it. Masculinization has started. So when you see to the old Stone Age, and if you come into the new Stone Age, you find there is a patternal difference and the drawing difference are there, indicating that the evolution of the of religion, which began at that time, was evolving. Okay, and you find that when the religion was evolving in the Paleolithic, there was a art form also evolved. So they have associated gods as associated with force of nature. So God is a force of nature. Animalism believes that animals, rivers, and element are the nature embodied spirits. Shamans are the people who believe to have ability to cure the sick and influence the future. This is something about 3,200 years back. The cave paintings are. These are the cave paintings that you're getting it here. So you find that the religion, when it started, the art culture also began. So there is a strong relationship between the religion and the art during the Stone Age. So the art and belief and the small statues that you find here. Then you find about 5 lakh years to about 6,000 years, there has been change. The people who were hunters living differently, hunting, they all became cohabiting with one another. Here is a cave picture which indicate how they were been hunting the deer. So you find they were hunters and gatherers. They had a remarkable art. They have a simple tools that is chipped off with the stone, and that was used for the hunting. And they had a simple shelter. They knew what fire is, and also they had the skill of learning or speaking, and that has evolved genetically, indicating that somewhere during that period there was some kind of a communication using language. So you'll find that from the age, Paleolithic age, if you come to the upper Paleolithic, which is about 4,000 to 10,000 years before, you had 15,000 years of Ukraine, some example that you're getting it. We also have lot of tools evolved, and we also find that the Homo sapien were there, that the migration of the Homo sapiens, and then the environment was also something different. Here is again we are talking about the Paleolithic, the paintings, then the beginning of explosion, then how they have divided themselves. The rituals like burial were also being observed. So these are the figures of God, what they used to believe. This is fertility, this is the shaman, those interpret the religious things, this is the earth mother, then this is the man's head. So these are the some of the drawings that we know now that they used to be as a part of a religious in the very prior primitive time or the modern stone age. If you also during the culture of the Indus Valley civilization, we find that the during Neolithic revolution, something 10,000 years before the human society became. Then the belief system started. The written records were observed in 320 BCE. The documentation of the text and practices, and these moved from prehistoric to organized religion. Similarly, you find other cultures during the same period of Indus Valley period. We find that the thousands of clay tablets were found in the Indus River Valley that developed a writing system that may be even older than Sumerian writing. Unfortunately, the archaeologists have not yet been able to read or decipher what the writings are in the Indus Valley River Valley civilization. So, their form of government, their religious belief, or the social structure of the society, though remains a mystery. You find that some of the Indus Valley had the seals, and these seals showed the swastika, which was found in other religions worldwide, especially whereas in case of Indian religions, you find the swastika is also found in Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. The earliest evidence for the element of Hinduism are alleged to have been present before and during the early Harpan period. Shivling has been found in the Harpan remains. So thus you find those Harpan civilization, you find there is a something has been laid down for as far as the system is concerned. Then we're talking about when this all were going on, the organized committee been formed. The organized committee were communicating with one another. The organizing committee were looking forward for their some kind of practice of religious practice. We find that the Hinduism was the oldest and well organized during that time, being organized, where you find that the God and goodness of Rig Veda was found in Proto-Indo-European religion. You also find the same root were found in the Indo-European languages. So languages have started in the previous slide. I was indicated how the language differed out from the Proto-Indo-European, and also you find that from the Indo-European languages how the languages migrated out of India, and they have changed. And thus you also find not only that one single language are evolved in India, you find various types of languages have evolved, basically give rise to what you call as the Indo-European language, and Proto-Munda language, and Assamese and Austra-Asiatic languages. And also you find also some 300 of them are found from the Dravidian and Tibeto-Arabian origin. Words has been found from the Dravidian and Tibeto-Arabian origin. So this indicates that during the Rig Veda, if you believe that the Aryans had come from during those time, from the Hindu Kush mountain to Indian territory, so called through the Himalayan pass, and up to the Ganges Delta, those people were living. And the Proto-Indo-European religion has spread. And if you consider the same root, then what is interesting is that this religion, Hinduism, did not appear only restricted to Rig Veda or to the Aryans, but you find that the same has also been found in the Dravidian and Tibeto-Arabian origin. 600 of it, 300 of it. And thus the words that were used in Proto-Mundo languages, which in the Assam, Austroasiatic languages, indicating that how did this knowledge from the Gangetic delta has or area came to the Austro-Asiatic language of Assamese language. So there is a controversy that you cannot say that it has started at one particular side, then migrated. But no, we are getting evidences that all these religions have been evolved independently in different places, and then finally it was brought together, or vice versa. But we have no much evidences. Now, what is interesting is that we know that the river system in India is a complicated delta system, you find it. Most of the river that start from the Tibet and they flow from Tibetan to where the Ganga is also a good and goes into the Bay of Bengal. We know that the two of the most important rivers are Yamuna and Ganges. They are considered to be the most sacred river in India. According to legend, the Yamuna is the daughter of Surya and sun god and sister to Yama, that is the god of death. And that is why we have a belief that if you take a holy dip in the water, that you will not be tormented by fear of death. And also you find that during those period of thing, there was a shifting in the tectonic plate shift. That resulted in river Yamuna, a tributary of Saraswati, shifted its course and Saraswati became smaller. And this is Indus River is coming up. These are the river that is thing. I will be coming back to it. Another tectonic plate shifted, thus resulting in Saraswati losing Sutlej, and Saraswati dried up, and this resulted in massive exodus uh, of the people towards the Ganges, and there arose the classical civilization of India, what we called as the Kali Yuga in 1900 BC. So you find here that the Saraswati River is here. This is the river from Chagar is what has been now been understood to be dried up or it is changed its course. So these rivers you'll find in the river Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Bias, all these Chenabs they have changed the course and then they finally come to the Indus, sorry, uh, Mohenjo-daro. Now with the civilization that were turned out, you will find that no solid political tradition could be found out. The institution like China or new level political interest, Rome and Greece was evolving. The diversity and the regionalism of the Guptas and this were evolving. Law codes were evolving. Then the chief minister to Chandragupta, that is Kautilya, and the caste system was also evolving in during that period in India. So thus you find that the civilization when it emerged, it influenced a large area than the Mesopotamia or Egypt. So this is the Indus Valley civilization. This is the Harpan motion, and we are not sure who are the earliest visitor. But by the end of the 3200 BC, the people who farming the villages in the near along this river, you find 2000 BC people built cities and brick and laid down the grid system, the plumbing, sewage system, and Harpan civilization, which we call Harpan civilization. After 1900 to 10,000 years, you'll find that this Harpan civilization has completely been abandoned. And no due reason, either it could be ecological or could be the change in the river flow, have resulted and impacted the decline of the Harappan civilization. That is, because of decline of the trade, the overseas trade chain, disruption of the direct land with
खरं पाहिलं तर स्वतःच्या पोरासाठी
Sumerian civilization around 2000 BCE.
आणि आज मग प्रतीक ओरडत होता मम्मी मम्मी बाबांना बादली ठेवून दे तर उठलीच नाही आली नाही घरामध्ये आणि 2 दिवस असं मस्त शिरा केला प्रतीकने एवढा शिरा खाल्ला.
The economic collapse
शिरा तुम्ही खात होते.
in summer or the mid 18th century is also been possible. So thus you find the reason for the decline is probably the climate change, the flooding, change of the course of Indus River, increased aridity,
आणि
unidentified
नुसतं मी
climate,
4 भाज्या करून येत होते मग काय ताण राहतो
and Aryan invasion theory. Some agricultural and artistic tradition has also been found in Dwarka, suggesting that the Harappan civilization people
त्या सुद्धा
must have
पायाने
come
लुटून देतात
to
पप्पाच
the
उचलत नाहीत त्या
to the Dwarka region of it.
आपलं आपले काम करायची आपल्याला सवय लावायची आपलं हे काय होतं काय माहिती मला लय धाक पडलाय आपण गेलो नाही इथं त्यांना म्हणा झक मारा एकमेकाच्या डोक्यात दगड घाल शेती कधी आपली आपल्याला भेटते बरोबर आहे का नाही तुला काय वाटतं होईल का रे माझं काम म्हणून तुला खरं म्हणून तर काय
Hello, who is the one who's speaking there?
I think
Some lady speaking and they're disturbing it. The Indus Valley civilization is, in fact, from 3300 to 1300 BCE, is divided into early phase, mature phase, and late phase. The early phase is 3300 to 2600, and 2600 to 1900, and 1900 to 1300 BCE. You'll find that the early site where we could find the archaeological evidences are Padri, Kalbanjar, that is Rajasthan, this is Gujarat, Dholavira and Kutch, then Harpan in Pakistan, then Balakot, Amri, and Birana in Haryana, and Kot, Diji, and Gumla. Whereas the mature phase, when it is at the zenith, when the mature phase was there, was they occupied the area of 8 lakh kilometer in Manda, that is Jammu, then some near UP, Malwa in Gujarat, and Sukta near the Baluchistan. By late 1900 to 1300 BCE, you will find that Indus Valley civilization declined and sites are more in number, but they were smaller in size. Then they divided into 5 phases, and thereafter that civilization was in fact gone. So you find though some of the civilization after the Harappan civilization, which laid the stone, that you find that the Vedic civilization and the difference between the Harappan civilization. Harappan civilization flourished about 26,000 to 1900, 2600 to 19 BC. The Vedic civilization later formed about 1500 to 1000, that is 1000 to 600 period is considered to be the period of Vedic literature. And it covered a wider geographical area that included Indo-Gangetic plain and regions of North India. Whereas in case of Harappan civilization, it was primarily involved with northwestern region of the Indian subcontinent, that is the present Pakistan and northwest India. Then urban civilization with the main occupation is the trade and commerce, whereas here the pastoral and rudimentary agriculture was seen in the Vedic civilization. And the Vedic civilization had no knowledge of urban life. Their houses were mostly made up of mud and bamboo leaves. Whereas in the Harpan, the people used to build plant houses of baked bricks. Then Harpans worshipped Pashupati, mother goddess, animal, snake, nature. There is no evidence of temple. Whereas here also in Vedic civilization also there is no evidence of idol worship or temple. But they used to worship the Indra, Varuna, Agni, and some of the principal deities. The Vedic civilization used gold and copper in the beginning, but later they used iron, whereas the Harpan civilization were ignorant of iron and was purely copper bronze culture. The Harpan civilization were not aware of horse, whereas in the Vedic culture civilization we find the horses and cow, they have been given a very high importance. They had a advanced art writing, whereas in case of Vedic civilization, they are unaware of writing. And you find that the Vedic Sanskrit writing came around 500 BC, not before that. Similarly, those were painted graveware was painted pottery, and some were using the black and red ware. And Harpans are peace-loving people, and here the people were warlike people known for advanced weaponry and armory. So you find that this is a picture depicts the Harpian region, the steppes, then the king and the ministers, how they are sitting there. These are the Gurukul or the Vedic period and the Aryans. So you'll find that there is a changes as evolution is occurring, and most of the evolution that has occurred was in the Harpan region compared to the Rig Vedas region or the Vedic region. When you find the Vedic region and the epic age, you find that the hunters and gather Aryans were hunters and herders, created social class that is Varna, and brought polytheistic religion that is the um, many believe religion that is Hinduism, and with history it also indicate in the Vedas related as the Mahabharata, Ramayana, and Upanishads. So these were additional teaching that was needed. So the Vedic period laid the foundation for Hinduism, Indian philosophy, and social structure concept of dharma, sanskara, reincarnation, and philosophical ideas. And they developed here. These were before the rise of Buddhism and Jainism. Thus, you find that 1500 to 500 civilization, Indus Valley civilization was seen. The Rig Vedic period was for 1500 to 1000 BC. They were Rig Veda were sung to gods like Indra, Agni, and Varuna. Similarly, the tribal society were in the Rig Veda, Vedic region, were carried out by a chief whom we call as a Raja. Then we find the emergence of Varna or the class system, the Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, but less rigid than later was evolved. And later Vedic period, you'll find about 1000 to 600 BCE. And here during this period, the society became more complex with large kingdom like Panchala and Kuru, and the focus shifted to other Vedas, philosophical texts like the Upanishad. Whereas in case of they also showed the increased importance of rituals. Priestly class that the Brahmins and the Kshatriya classes are the two major classes that they were involved. So coming to the point is that the Harpan people and the Vedic people were not same because the living pattern was different. The Harpan were urban civilization, Rigvedic people were pastoral and rural in nature. Archaeological evidence shows the Harpan phase ended in 1900. The Aryan phase in India is about 1500 BCE. And the Rigvedic people were only aware of barley, but Harpans were aware of wheat, sesame, and peas. And Vedic chiefs were horse centered, but Harpans were not aware of this animal. The Rigvedic people spoke Vedic Sanskrit, whereas the Harpan script was not been deciphered as yet. So the very old pattern of the Sanskrit was being developed. And Harpans practiced the burials, whereas Vedic people cremated the dead one. So you find the complete rituals were also different. So Harpan and Rigved people were not same. Then we find the rise of Buddhism and Jainism in the 6th century BCE, and they are highly influenced by the Upanishadic thought, sharing concept of karma, sanskara, rebirth, and moksha, while challenging the Brahmanical ritualism and rigid caste system. They also emerged from the same fertile ground of philosophical inquiry that we found in the Upanishad, offering path to liberation through ethical conduct and self-realization, appealing to Kshatriyas and Vaishyas dissatisfied with Vedic dominance and complex sacrifice, ultimately pro- providing alternative spiritual framework for salvation. The main difference of the Buddhism and Jainism, they believed in the rebirth. Jainism believed in circles of birth, rebirth. The religious text is Agamas. The scripture here is Triptika, which is a vast text consisting of three sections. The principal teaching of Buddhism is that life is suffering and to escape suffering and to realize the fourfold noble truth and practicing the eightfold path. Whereas in case of Jainism, liberation from the cycle, rebirth is attained by taking five vows and following the principles of three jewels. In Buddhism, sin is not a concept in Buddhism, whereas sin is defined as harm to others. And they are of two types, Svetambar and Digambar. And whereas they are divided into Buddhism divided into two sects. Upon the death of Gautam Buddha, they are of Mahayanas and Theravada. Now, when you look into from here on, we see there is some kind of an system of your human community is well developed, and people started to follow religious one. From the religious, the educational system developed for a civic sense, and you find from the Buddhist system, you find that the education begin, and that this education was started by the Buddhist monk or bhikshu, and they were called as the Buddhist system of education. Buddhist system of education concentrated much on math and vihara, in mutt and viharas, and education was considered to be the process to mean achieve the knowledge, and Buddhist system of education was totally based on darshan and spiritual country. What are the curriculum? Education during the Buddhist curriculum was core ideas of Buddhism. That was the one is being taught. Reading, writing, and arithmetic, grammar, art, medicine, logic, philosophy, etc. Agriculture, astronomy, astrology, and law. So these were the basic curriculum of education during the Buddhist age. as per the Buddhist knowledge, we find that the material comfort and luxuries of the prime importance one has to sacrifice. In viharas of Buddhist monasteries, they were the centers of education. And the students who underwent the trainings in that organism, in that orga- ordination, is a ceremony after which they had to lead a life for 12 hours, novitiated life. The education underwent few changes when Buddha and Mahavira became wandering. Also, you'll find the interesting thing is that Mahavira and Buddha did not were teaching in a mutt or vihara. In fact, they were considered as a moving teachers because they were wandering to one place to another place, and wherever they used to go, they reached out to the students and taught social lessons of not killing animal, not harming others, and no indulgence in adulteries. During the same time, there was another group of education system was being evolving, and they were called as the thought impeccable manners. They taught manners, values of life, and all of these were along the practical knowledge that to be received in the various aspects of life, and children of all classes of society lived under the Gurukul. So Gurukul system advanced. So, but only drawback with the Gurukul system was that education only for the higher caste children, and they studied the Vedas, astronomy, mathematics, warfare, and government. The ancient Gurukul system.
त्याच्यामध्ये काहीच नाही मी एक्सप्लेनेशन
Hello, hello. So the ancient Gurukul system education where the Guru impart knowledge to the disciples. So thus we find education process began with Vedic period, according to Vedic sources like Smriti, Upanishad, and in the form of Gurukula system. From those format for what the people were living, we find that the empire started. The first of the empire we find historically is the 326 BC. Alexander the Great conquered part of India, but left almost immediately. And the military leader Chandragupta Maurya grabbed the throne in 321, which began the Maurya Empire. And 303 BC, Maurya Empire stretched more than 2,000 miles and united North India politically for the first time. So he had an army of about 60,000 men, 30,000 cavalry, and 9,000 elephant, and to conquer all of the India, which included some areas of Macedonia control. Now, when you come to the Mauryan Empire, the they were highly developed empire. They had it, and the educational and technical advancements during the Maurya Empire was there. You will find here that the Ashoka pillar, the ruins of Patliputra, that is the present day Patna, then Sanchi Stupa, they were all the culture and art has evolved during those times. And you also find that the practical skill, intellectual pursuit, then you had a learning centers like Taxila, Nalanda. Then the people used to study the medicine, astronomy, grammar, warfare with learning, moving beyond just religion and life skills, administration and ethics, oral methods, debates, and guilds for technical training. The Buddhist monastery emerged as a prominent center of learning with a major educational hub resided basically in the Taxila, Ujjain, and Varanasi. The technical education was also imparted, and that in which the children learned craft from the very beginning, early areas. monasteries, they had a monasteries. So Buddhist monasteries were the important educational centers. Then guild, there's a technical education is given by imparted through guilds for craft. Then Gurukul for Guru discipline system traditional that was continued during the period, I mean Maurya period, and they shifted towards practical knowledge, inner moral progression, ethics, life skill, preparing student for efficient societal role. And you find that some of the people like Kautilya or Chanakya was a key scholar, philosopher, teacher at Taxila who taught Arthashastra. Charaka was a medical knowledge, Charaka Sahita, and during Mauryan's time, education system further underwent changes as teachers selected students according to their mental capacity, as the concept of knowledge was related to education. So you find that the Mauryans became choosers of the students. After the Mauryan system that collapsed somewhere in 550 Christian era, that is CE, you'll find that the Gupta period was established and they established the schools and universities where common men got attracted to education. Nalanda University, Taxila University became a prominent center during Gupta, which included only male people were allowed to study. Though education was not denied, women education was not denied to women, but education was much low. Thus, you find from the Gupta period, you find the medicine, you find literature, you find astronomy and mathematics. So, from Gupta period, the pi value, concept of zero, decimal, then C-cesarean sections, plastic surgery, printed animal guide, and 1,000 discount diseases and 500 healing plants were identified. They also identified 1,000 literatures on, and astronomy was highly evolved. These are the fields that was evolved during the Gupta period. The Center of Learning like the Nalanda University that was founded by Kumar Gupta I and Takshashila University attracted students from the different part of the Asia. And the primary education normally is to take place in the village school, which is called as the Lipi Shalas or by teacher Charyas, Charyas. And higher education was the used to take place in monasteries, that is Vihara and Brahminical settlement. Curriculum used to be through Vedas, grammar, philosophy, logic, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and literature. And some of the top preliminaries that they produced were Aryabhatta for mathematics, astronomy, and Kalidasa for literature. And while primarily the Gupta education meant for upper caste, but we find that some of the elite women, princesses, were also studied Vedas and art, and the Buddhist monasteries were generally inclusive. Now, how was the teaching method? The teaching methods were basically were oral tradition, rote learning by heart. You had to do the thing, and reading literary text and liberal holistic approach. And Gupta rulers supported the scholars institution, fostering the intellectual bloom. And the educational system in Gupta period were foundational, fostering scientific breakthrough, rich literature, and international intellectual exchange, solidifying its reputation as India golden age of culture and learning. So, when the zenith of Gupta period, Sanskrit, philosophy, and science and arts developed. Buddhist monasteries in the Nalanda, Hindu agraharas with primary schooling in village, and it attracted international students and many advancement in math, that is the zero decimal system, were also seen, and in astronomy, Aryabhatta, and even offered education to some women, making it as a gold age for training. So, mathematics, medical science, metallurgy were the one of the very famous subjects that was evolved. And same time, you will also find the habit of Guru Dakshina is also found during this period. From the Gupta period, education continued to be traditional like monasteries. Then there were temple. Temple is attached to college, that is called as Gratikas. With increased patronage under ruler like Harsha, they flourished. The university like Nalanda, religious shift came, Jain and Baptism center, and Brahmical Mutt found a rise, and later Islamic education madrasa, and thus the curriculum was shifted, and there was a change in made the curriculum system. But what is interesting is that in the post-Gupta period, the caste system, that is the Brahmin, the Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, became was there, which was there. The caste system was greatly changed, and the growth of literacy and education were breaking down the caste system during the post Gupta period. So the Institute of Learning were viharas, mutt, pathshalas, and education that was divided from pathshalas and mutts and viharas. After the Gupta period, you'll find for a short period there was Harshavardhana's dynasty that supported Nalanda, Buddhist studies and flourished. And also you find the decline of the Buddhist and Jain centers, monastery lost patronage, and Brahminical Mutt grew as educational institution. The South India saw a rise in devotional literature, that is Alvars and Nayanars, with devotional song preserved in texts like Nalavira and Prabandhan. Then we also find that the Islamic learning and arrival of the Islamic rule brought madrasas, integrating Persian, Arabic, and Islamic theology into the existing educational framework. So, if you find from the education that was 600 CE to 1000 CE, we find philosophy, religious, and cultural. Then, education was deeply rooted in Hinduism and Buddhism, continued to thrive. And Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism, you find the knowledge were given out in the form of a religious philosophies form, and the main knowledge that was given was on the dharma, that is moral conduct, and moksha, that is liberation. Medicine, astronomy, mathematics, and administration was also very highly regarded as a subject, and people were trained in that particular subject. And individuals were allowed to prepare individuals for societal forming and for governance. This I think we have already done. Then, when did the invasion of Muslims took place? The first invasion of Muslims happened in 712 CE by Muhammad bin Qasim, who was a Umayyad general, conquered Sindh, present-day Pakistan, and Multan. Thus, he established the first Arab rule in the Indus Valley. And he was also responsible to spread of the Indian knowledge abroad. Then we find that 1027, a Turkish ruler who launched 17 raids into India, basically for wealth, and he was famous for also for sacking Somnath temple. Okay, that is called the Muhammad of Ghaznavi. His invasion was not to make any establish his rule in India. And what he did, he drained the Indian resources of the northwestern frontier and became vulnerable to future invasion. So he was one who looted and went back and exposed the India for the future attacks. The third attack was by Muhammad Gauri in the 12th century, and this led to defeat of North Indian rulers of foundation, and then he founded what is called as the rule of foundation for the Delhi Sultanate, marking a significant shift in Indian politics. So thus you find Gauri was responsible between 1192 to 1206. Qutbuddin Aibak expanded Turco-Afghan rule, leading to the establishment of Delhi Sultanate in 1206, and laid the foundation of Delhi Sultanate in 1206 CE. Now, if you see that when this period of up to 700 to nearly 500 period of 1200 and or 1400, you find that the India was something like looking like this. The Tibet tribe, the Tibetan this thing, then raise of Chitra, all these numbers, they significantly, Nizam Shah of the Ahmednagar, this is 34, this is the one. So all were in the kingdoms. So these all small kingdoms, and most of these kingdoms were ruled by the Hindu kings and then they ruled by the Muslim kings. And the India at that time appears to have been something like this before the Mughal came into this India. So when Muslims came from northwest to India, along with them, many of these people like businessmen, common people, scholars, Sufis, saint, they also came from there and dominated at the remote places in India. And this religious education was primarily given to India during the Muslim invasion that was in the 8th AD in Sindh. And then you also you find the first institute of Muslim Islamic learning was established at Daiban, Mansoura, and Multan, where Quran and Hadith were taught in mosque. In northern India, the conquest of Punjab was Muhammad Ghaznavi. Lahore became the cultural center and preached mystics and from Iran and Central Asia. Muhammad Ghaznavi and Gauri, they also played some role, important role in education, and they started some schools in India. Also, the slave dynasty kingdom of 1206 to 1286 established several mosques and secular learning that went hand in hand with the religious instruction. So you find that During the Muslim era, the Music College of Delhi, in the reign of Razia Sultan, was established. The Nasiruddin was the greatest lover of education, and he is, came from Persia. He many books written by him. Then we find the arrival of Balban. He was a strong sultan of slave dynasty, loved literature, patronized the scholars in his court. Then Khilji's, highly favorable for cultivation of literary knowledge in India. And Jalaluddin, the first king of dynasty, who was a learner and he respected learning, invited the people in his court, learned people like Amir Khusro was the great scholar and a poet in his court. Then we also find the empirical library was established by him, and the people were looked at a very high esteem. The teachers were considered as highly respected, and they were conferred upon him the honor of wearing the white robes. So the teachers in his court were allowed to wear the white robe because white robe is generally paid for the royal families, but those learned people were made equal to the royals, and the member of imperial house where the greatest order has been given. Sultan Khilji established the madrasa exclusively for women, and he considered the education essential for progress of the country. This is the shattered universities of ancient India. You'll find uh, Ratnagiri, Vikramaditya, Jagdina, then Pushupagiri, Odantipuri, then Samapura, then Takshashila, Nalanda, Valambi, and Bikrampur. So these are the universities which is now in ruined, and structures indicating that our education system was very good sometime back. During the Tughlaq dynasty, which is entered into India, the Muhammad bin Tughlaq created most of the built number of maktabs and madrasas. Now, what is the difference between the maktabs? Maktab is a primary school, and madrasas are the higher education institutions. The children are given basic education of Quran and Islam in the maktab, and along with Quran and Islam, Arabic languages, science, and Islamic law are taught in madrasas. And there is a fixed syllabus here in which different subjects are taught, and students also get formal degrees in madrasas. Where here children do not receive any formal degree, the teachers of maktab are have knowledge of religion. So this is a for children religious studies basically with the Islam and Quran, where madrasas are for higher education where the degrees are given. And this was done by the Tughlaq and was well planned education system. He deputed teachers far different places in his empire and quote as a scholars like Barni, then Jalauddin Rumi, Qadir, then Khani. They were experts of Islamic jurisprudence and theology. Another thing is that he continued to repair and reconstruct old madrasas which was unused and they were decaying conditions, and he established new schools and colleges with potential residential accommodation and paid remuneration to the teachers. So you find the earliest education system that is coming up with the remuneration, student, teachers were also set up by the Tughlaq dynasty. Then we find the arrival of the Lodi dynasty. The Lodi dynasty improved the education system that was way back in 1451 to 1526. Bahlol Lodi, he considered the promotion of education as his study, his duty. Okay, that is his son of Lodi, that is the Balal Lodi, and Sultan Sikandar Lodi was himself a poet, so he also carried forward the purpose of education. And you find that the education progressed, and education was made compulsory for the military officers during his tenure. And Agra became the center of Islamic culture and civilization. And many scholars from Arabia, Bukhara, and Persia came to Agra, and these rulers were trained themselves and also had a patronage of learning and promotion of education by founding schools and colleges. So thus you find thereafter Sikandar Lodi's death in a war battle, you find that the end of the Lodi dynasty appeared because Sikandar Lodi was killed by Babur, who invaded India in his tenure. So you find that from the after the death of the Lodis, that is Sikandar Lodi, the Mughal period started in 1526 to 1857, where the Mughal education started. The interesting aspect of the Mughal education system was that when they arrived in India, there existed lot of, because these all previous people, Muslim rule, they have already created lot of schools and colleges in the form of madkabs and madrasas and all. In 1526 to 1530, that is the 4 years of Babur's rule, he promoted education and many educational institutions. His son Humayun gave importance to scholars, and these scholars were given a very important post in his court. Thereafter, you find that Sher Shah came because that was a period where Humayun was defeated and Humayun was for 15 years was out of power. Thus, you find that Sher Shah also built madrasas, and after that, the famous madrasa that is in Narunal, that is the Sher Shahi madrasa, and thereafter, his period, you'll find later on again Humayun took over after 15 years, and Humayun died accidentally, and Humayun also developed the education system. Then the period of Akbar, Akbar had supported the institutions, including madrasa, and then he also wanted the children of Hindus and Muslim children should learn together. So thus he devised certain systemic policies that were followed by the royal court to ensure that Hindu children and youth were educated about their religion. So he was mostly towards the learning of Hindu as well as the Islamic teachings. The changes in the learning method in the elementary level and revision of the madrasa curriculum was made during the Akbar time, and it was entrusted to a person called Mir Fatehullah Shirazai. Ikram in 1964 writes, after a study of Islamic scholar, he writes the Muslim education was at its most inclusive stage during the reign of Emperor Akbar, and therefore at that stage it presented to us the largest selection of educational ideas to estimate our thought in the educational reconstruction of today. So thus you find that was the period when the best of the education could be given according to the scholars they reported in their studies in 1964. Akbar was followed by Jahangir in 1605 and repaired. What Jahangir primarily did was repaired and reconstructed all the maktabs and madrasas which were not used and that were being dwelled by the birds and beasts and he populated with the teachers and the students. Shah Jahan established the Empirical College in Delhi in about 1650. Then the royal support to the education was given by the Mughal emperor, and the education institution grew phenomenally, and the ulema held a respected position in the royal court. Similarly, when you come back to the Aurangzeb, you find that Shah Jahan's son, you'll find that he was more of a Muslim theology and Arabic grammar. He also built schools and colleges. He encouraged education of Boharas of Gujarat, and he appointed a trained teachers and arranged monthly examinations for them. And he gave a huge amount of money for repair and reconstruction of old maktab and madrasas of Gujarat, and ordered his dean to take care and to see that to support the students and the colleges. However, the instruction that is followed during the Aurangzeb's time was based on his own theory of education. The famous madrasa, that is for Farangi Mahal, and the famous madrasa of Delhi, known as the Madrasa Rahimia, was established in his time by Shah Abdur Rahim, father of Shah Wali Ullah. But after the death of Aurangzeb, the Mughal Empire started to lose its importance, and you find the internal dissension and external invasion started to happen. And because of that, the emperors, private individuals, the endowments, money by which education institutions were supposed to be made became less. And during the course of the time, the college education stopped because of funds. And you find that during the time of 1739, the Nadir Shah invaded India and sacked Delhi, resulting in a great setback to educational progress. And Nadir Shah looted the Mughal Imperial Library and carried away everything. So, thus, you find the education which was at the zenith was actually disturbed with the death of Aurangzeb and invasion of Nadir Shah. Then we find the onset of the British that is taking over as a Muslim education in India. And then you also find that the Muslims, the British came as a for business, not for this purpose. But with the downfall of the Muslim education in India, British gave instruction for Hindus and Mohammedans along with their religious institution. The British rule of 1757, they were involved with what is called as the structural, functional, and curriculum changes in madrasas, and Warren Hastings founded a madrasa in Calcutta in 1781, and which was used to teach Arabic, Persian, and Urdu. In 1814, East India Company sanctioned 1 lakh rupees yearly for the revival of literature, native language, and promotion of knowledge of science. In 1987, William Bentinck made law for teaching English, and in the words of Lord Macaulay, the first law member of the Governor General's Council of India, stressed that the British government to establish education system with his philosophy. His philosophy was, we must at present do our best to form a class who may be interpreters between us and the millions whom we govern. A class of person, Indian in blood and color, but English in taste, in opinion, in morals, and in intellect. So thus you find that the first seed of equality as far as for the teaching was concerned was done by 1835, and later on that same thing forwarded in 1854. But however, with the new policies of this came, there was resentment for the new British education system by Muslims, because they thought that the British educational policies will threat their threaten their religion, and they also thought that it could be a ploy, a vehicle for converting the Muslims to Christianization. Then Muslims, they are also lost to the traditional system like Hindus also, education, the native schools were very financially weak and they were gradually started deteriorating. And then to adopt English as a medium instruction was acting as a barrier for communication among the masses. So then Wood's dispatch of 1854 was brought special attention of the government of India toward the improvement of wider expansion education in both English and vernacular schools. Then we find that in 1882, the India's Indian Education Commission, whose chairman was Sir William Hunter, he gave what is called promotion of education among the Muslims and he recommended certain things. According to the recommendation of William Hunter, there should be indigenous school for Muslims with secular subject to their curriculum. Then scholarship should be available at all stages. Muslim educational endowment reserved for Muslim students only, and to increase the number of Muslim teachers and other officers, and higher English education for Muslim both in school and college should be implemented. So thus we find the William Hunter's education system was made in such a way to make the Muslim education system's endowment as well as to encourage the Muslim teachings without disturbing their religion was the first part that was done by the William Hunter Committee. It is to be observed, to be taken to note that when the academia was evolving during the during the Mughal period, and by 1857, first revolt, thereafter the almost all rulers of the Muslim rulers have been either executed or were killed or they were sent abroad. So you find that the whole population, kingdom, money, everything was not available with them. And they had to face very, very bad situation. And perhaps for that in mind, the Indian Education Commission came up for. Hello? Then what was the attitude of Muslims toward Western education? Muslims reorganized their education system at par with other communities in order to have access to economic opportunities. And they made. Acha, do you want to break? Hello?
Yes,
Hello?
sir.
Do you
Yes, sir.
want to
Yes, sir.
break?
Yes, sir. 5 10 minutes.
5 minutes. That will do?
Yes, sir.
Okay, in 5 minutes I'll give break. Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Shall we continue?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Then during that period, what had happened was Muslims reorganized their educational system at par with other communities, and they had made four major reforms. What are the reforms? Total non-cooperation towards British system education, and they tried to make their own Muslim education system, which we now call it as a Darul Ulmoon Deoband. Another was total acceptance of British system education and to develop it among Muslim with minor modification. That is, it came to the shape of what is called MAO College, which Aligarh, which later became now known as the Aligarh Muslim University. So, accepting British then made some changes. Then expression of dissatisfaction for both Darul Umam Deoband and MAO College, it emerged the shape of Nadwatul Ulma, headquartered at Lucknow. This trend was expression of lack of satisfaction from the other three trend and give national outlook to Muslim education. It was represented by, and that was represented by Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. So now that university, today we have all the four are still existing in India. So Jamia Millia and Aligarh Muslim University has become one of the uh, top ranked universities in India. And to be surprising that you'll find that Aligarh Muslim University, very few Muslim students study, and most of these other religion people are studying in that. So it's a misnomer for as far as the name is concerned, but then it has a historic values. Then Warren Hastings established a Calcutta Madrasa in 1781 for the study of learning of Persian and Arabic. So in the madrasa, with language to be learned is the Persian and Arabic, and the motive was to develop friendly relation with elites of the indigenous society and to understand their culture. William Jones, he established the Asiatic Society of Bengal. Most of the people will be knowing that Asiatic Society of Bengal is one of the highly respected society which is still also existing, and in 1784 to encourage the Oriental studies. For roughly 50 years, it was the academic hub and is the unique institution which significantly translated significant Sanskrit work. So, as an Asiatic researcher, Hastings believed that Hindus had laws and had not changed for thousands of years. Therefore, if the British wanted to establish a rule in the nation, they had to learn these laws and Sanskrit language in which they were written. So, therefore, you find the Sanskrit language was given promotion, and that was done. Similarly, Jonathan Duncan in 1791 established a Sanskrit college in Banaras. That this college is still there. The motive was to promote the study of Hindu laws and philosophy and to educate Oriental language with little success. And there were more teachers than students. So you find that more teachers were there and students were less. Similarly, Lord Wellesley founded in 1801 William College, Fort William College, and to train the young British recruit for the civil service is in India. And we were primarily for making local British to make local British administrators familiar with Indian culture and tradition. Earlier, these people used to come from England and then they come to India, and they were not knowing what the culture is. And so now they were trained in India only by the British administrators with making Indian culture and tradition familiar. And this developed into a significant repository of information on and about India. This was this college later formed the university too. Then there is a Charter Act of 1813. The act of the first step towards education made an objective of the government was the company took up about 1 lakh rupee for the revival and improvement of literature, encouragement of learned natives of the India. Then administrative need of company required Indians well versed with classical and vernacular language. So, whatever the classical language we're speaking, they wanted to train the administration in that in Indian language. So, they Indians were taught Sanskrit, Arabic, or Persian skills were required to access and explain Hindu or Muslim law in various departments of the British administration. So, the Sanskrit, Arabic, Persian. Persian was a very common language that was used during the Mughal court in the law and administration. Then Raja Ram Mohan Roy, we also know about the social reformer from Bengal. He was of the opinion that the Western education should be of his demand, and he wanted that for a progressive India, he favored that the spread of English education and Western learning is must to develop the country. He protested against the government proposal to strengthen Calcutta, Madras, and Banaras Sanskrit College and establishment of more Oriental colleges in Bengal. The administration decided to promote the study of English and other Asian languages. And Calcutta Hindu College was founded in 1817 by progressive Bengalis and received a grant. college focused on study of Western humanities and science and offered instruction to English. Now here you find that Rajaram Mohan Roy wanted that English to be the language, and he was not in very much happy by introducing the local languages what Britishers wanted. He was of the view that instead of local languages, English should be made a compulsory language. Then another committee was formed in 1823, that is the General Committee on Public Institution. This committee was formed to see the growth of India's educational system, and most of the members of this were belonging to the Orientalist movement, and therefore, instead of promoting the Western education, they are actually wanted the promotion of the Oriental learning. So this committee, they don't want a Western; they want Oriental learning. The committee was headed by Macaulay and consists of 10 European members. And as a member of the Executive Council, Macaulay drafted this in 1825, and the famous one that I think this is a class of person with Indian blood and color, but English in taste, in opinion, in moral and intellect, what he envisaged. Governor General William Bentinck in 1828 to 35 accepted Macaulay's committee report, European literature, science through the English language. So, European literature, science should be in English language. But he put faith infiltration theory, that is down filtration theory, that which held that English educated person would teach the class of interpreters and let the English will percolate to down. And thus, the learning of local language as a support for teaching was logical outcome of this theory. Another very important thing what William Bentinck did was they abandoned Persian as an official court language and English took place. Printing and publishing English book became free and cheaper, and free funding for English education while less for Oriental learning was done. Then another committee which was formed by the British, used in a company where Wood's Dispatch in 1854, and this committee is called as Magna Carta of English Language in India. They recommended that Western education and Department of Public Instruction in each of the five provinces of British India were having a Department of Public Instruction that is government controlled. There will be universities at Calcutta, Mumbai, and Bombay and Madras. Then there will be a graded school, including high schools, middle schools, and elementary school. Then teachers training centers. Then vernacular language in primary schools. Then Anglo vernacular at secondary and English at the college level. And they also implemented what is called a grant in aid system to support private enterprises in the field of education. And they also first time hired qualified teachers and uphold appropriate teaching standards in order to qualify for the grant in aid. We also find these recommendations were education for women and the proposal for promoting vocational education. So vocational education for women, then teaching, government to grant the colleges, private colleges, then languages, the primary school establishments, university establishment, and the government department to fully take care of the public instructions was formulated in 1854. We also find that the new English educational schemes were imitation of model were taken from the British or English schools, and a Committee of Public Instruction and Council of Education were abolished, and Department of Public Instruction came and existed in 1855. And 1857, three universities, Calcutta, Madras, Mumbai, were established, and three schools, girls' schools, were modernized and including government grant in aid inspection system. Then we find another education commission was put forth was 1882 to 83, which was called as Hunter Education Commission. And this commission was constituted to see and examine the implementation of the Dispatch Commission of 1854, and therefore committee avoided investigating the Indian University general functioning. Their recommendation was to emphasize primary education, two divisions in secondary school, then academic, that is leading to university education, technical leading to commercial vocalization and technical education, then emphasized education for women outside the presidency town, and provided private enterprises to encourage the enter the education sector. So private and government school, private people are allowed to start the schools, and the schools will be taken care by the government by granting aid. So that was one of the very nice move which they made it for education. He also recommended, he found that in the last 20 years there has been unprecedented growth and expansion of secondary and collegiate education, and teaching come examining universities, setting up of teaching come examining universities was there. Means that the university will teach, they will also conduct examination for the university, and thus you find under this commission, the Punjab University was established 1882, which has a focus on literature, teaching, and examination, and Allahabad University was established in 1887, according to the Hunter Education Committee. Then you find next is Indian Universities Act of 1904. This the recommendations of the Indian Universities Commission of 1902 was headed by Sir Thomas Rayleigh, where this commission requested or recommended the reorganization of the university administration, strict and organized oversight by universities of the college, and stricter affiliation requirement as well as significant curriculum and exam changes. So they recommended in 1907. See, interestingly, 1858 universities were formed. And in that university, we find that there is a reorganization within 50 years, 30 years, we finding a reorganization at administrative level and college affiliation condition to be stricter, that significant curriculum and exam changes to be done. This commission recommended led to the university control of secondary schools, and university recognized schools were first formulated under this commission. Thereafter, we find in 1719 to 19, Sadler Commission comes into the thing, and this improves the secondary education for the improvement of university education. And here, the important thing is that two Indian members were appointed, Ashutosh Mukherjee and Ziauddin Ahmad, who later became the Vice Chancellor of Calcutta University. The recommendation that to bifurcate higher education at the intermediate levels. That means up to after intermediate level, there will be entry to higher education. There should be a board of secondary and intermediate education to manage administration and control of secondary education. So school education, secondary education will be controlled by the board, what we have present today also. There will be a special board of women education at Calcutta University, and 7 new universities came into existence during 1916 to 1921. That is Mysore University, Patna University, Banaras University, Aligarh University, Dhaka University, Lucknow University, and Osmania University. Government of India recommended the Sadler report to provisional government. Then we find Diarchi's 1921-1937, Montagu Chamford reform transferred Department of Education to provisional control. So Department of Education is transferred to provisional control. Hartog Committee of 1929. This was appointed by Simon Commission to review the position of education. They appointed a quantitative, they found a quantitative increase of education led to the deterioration of quality of lowering of standard and was considered dissatisfaction with the education system. So you can imagine that the Hartog Committee of 1829 were unhappy with their deteriorating conditions of the quality and lowering of the standards of an education, and they have considered dissatisfaction with the education system. Even in 75 years of our after freedom, the position of our university standard is still debatable, and we do not have any committee to see or improve the quality of the education. So Hartog Committee recommended the importance of primary education but condemned the expansion. Matriculate examination dominated the secondary education, undeserving students to university, and so they wanted to stop through the secondary education undeserving candidate to enter into the university setup. Then there was an admission, retention of the boys intended for rural pursuit at the middle vernacular school age. Boys were turned into the rural jobs, rural training, diversified courses into industries and commercial. Then indiscriminate admission was stopped. Then improving university work by confining university to proper function and giving good advanced education to student, and make university more fruitful, less disappointing agency in the life of community. So Hartog community 1929 did what till today we are not able to do it. Then we find in 1937 another committee was established which is called as the Varda Scheme of Education. This is in response to the Government of India Act of 1935, introduced by Provisional Autonomy and Popular Ministry, started functioning in 1937. This was the educational policy that was generated when the Congress Party won elections in all the 7 provinces. So they wanted to make a national scheme for education for the country, and Mahatma Gandhi proposed the basic education program in 1937, and he published this in a series of articles in the newspaper called the Harijan. According to the basic education was learning through activity, and in October 30th, All India National Educational Conference accepted Mahatma Gandhi's proposal on a national level, 3 and mandatory mother tongue education be provided for 7 years. From this education, one can make out revolve around doing manual labor or other productive work. So that kind of education, so productive work, manual labor, the learning with activities has to be given. Unfortunately, this instruction for the entire education was given through some industry or profession. That's what they initially thought. But that has resulted into the self-supporting extent of covering teacher salary. now education to be self-supporting. Now you can imagine the Varda committee of our forefathers wanted to create a education of self-supporting that will cover the teacher's salary. And imagine that today we are also having the non-grant colleges, which is also doing the same thing to cover teacher salary. Okay, so thus you find we will debate on this issue once we go after 1947. The early individual should learn to earn is living through manual work. So another very condition was, which I think maybe I'm not very supportive of it. The learning is intervened. That is what we call talking about the manual work and other things. If you see these, the Varda scheme is for in Manarega how the things were being done. Then the syllabus to prepare this was given to entrusted to Zakir Hussain, and that scheme was called as Nai Talim and did not include religious instruction. Therefore, Muslim League rejected, and the with the war in 1939, World War II, the Congress Communists resigned, and because of that, this postponement of the scheme happened. Then 1944, the Sargent report, that was the Central Advisory Board, examined the post-war education and development. It visualized a system of education with a pre-primary education to be taught to the students at the age of 3 to 6, followed by a universal compulsory and free primary basic education for all children between the age 6 to 11 and 11 to 14 senior basic suggested in Varda scheme. Basic senior basic is the stage for the most student and envisages two main types of school, academic and technical. The impact of British education in India had some drawbacks, and because in India they encouraged teaching of English language in schools and colleges, and they wanted to create a separate class of administrators that will take care of the administration, and English was made as a link language, and English books, newspapers brought to Indians new idea from the West, like freedom, democracy, equality, and brotherhood. And in some areas, there was a mass neglect of the education and the weakness of the British education system. We find in 1911, 94% Indians lacked literacy, which changed to 92% by 2021. So neglect on human education was female education was seen, neglect of scientific and technical research or education. The company's administration also neglected scientific and technical education, and thus also you find in 1957, country had only three medical colleges at Calcutta, Bombay, and Madras, and only one engineering college in Roorkee. So the finance issue of finance was at the heart of many of the drawbacks of the education policies during British India. Now let us look after the British and so many years later, we got a freedom. The freedom, sorry, this date is wrong. It is 1947. Impact of political change. because India became free and there was a change at the political level. We had to take care of our own university as a civilization, organized civilization. We have an intellectual adventure with Poem, Greek, and Latin. We also have to have a integrated way of life with the society and individual. We have to have a wisdom and knowledge. So this was the criteria which the our political leaders at that time were thinking how to unify the India and Indian education system that should come into the free country when we have got our freedom. And if you look that by the 1949, with the writing of our constitution that came into existence was accepted, adopted on 26th day of November 1926. This is actually 26th. 26th 26th day of November. So, what our preamble reads? We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socially secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all the citizens justice, social, economic, political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of individuals and the unity of integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 20 20th 26th. Okay, so it is 26th. On the 26th day of November 1999, hereby adopt and enact and give ourselves to this constitution. We, the people of India. So we have to take care that what had happened in the past history, what we are glorifying to our history, what we talk about our history. From this thing, India was made, or a country whom we call people of India or Bharat, chartered out certain things, and we have to fulfill what we have promised to give on this particular day to the through our constitution to the inhabitants of this country. So what is important then it was to see that democracy in education, that is the equality of status and opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity in the constitution refer to the dignity of the individual and unity, integrity of the nation, justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship. It is the development of body, mind, and spirit of each individual and value of individual in the dignity and value of human life. So, thus, in a democracy, we wanted this. We also wanted a physical education to be strong, physical in nature of human body, obey definite laws of growth, health, state, and fitness, physical fitness. No great nation can build without strong physical health foundations. So, thus, you find that even in the Greek and other Rome, the people were all involved in the physical health. So, we needed to have a physical health, physical education to be more. And also, we have a triad characters of human mind where we think that the most intelligent go to university and less intelligent to technical school. This sort of things has to be changed, understanding. Then we have a language and literature should occupy the first place, and the literature should be quickened to enlarge the human spirit. Art, music, and painting educate emotions, and impact a certain grace. We also have a philosophical transactions of royal societies which deal with scientific investigation, languages which relate to construction of sentences, a method of science. So construction of method follows the scientific way of science. Therefore, natural science, social science, and humanities has to play a significant role in what is called as in our education system. We need to have a holistic study which involve the three fields, that is science and technology, social studies including history, then you should have a humanities that should have language and literature, fine art, ethics, philosophy, and religion. Now, when I'm talking about this thing is the first education commission of S. Radhakrishnan was formulated, and in this he has suggested this to be what of the direction based upon the preamble of the constitution to be carried out. So you find that the unity of mind and interdependence knowledge, that is ideas of nature, societies, and values. And when it comes to human mind, it is the unity and all knowledge that there has to be interdependent knowledge has to be there. So so in a philosophical state, a person have to be united, person himself and society, and all knowledge to be interdependent, whatever. And all that knowledge what he is gaining is has to be studied, understood, and implemented and given percolated to the society. Another very interesting phenomena that was observed was in is the justice. Individuals from society, separation from individual from society. You cannot separate an individual from the society. So separation is not possible. Then you should have, if you have a state, then the foundation of the state is important. You have to create a society that is free from evil. That is why you have a civic. Even individual entitled for free and equal chance to be free from want, fear, and ignorance. So an individual you cannot keep, even if you wanted, free from fear, ignorance, and want. And if individual is a fear, ignorant, avoid the things is according to the Radhakrishna, India is going to be weakened. And the knowledge and the justice should not by the words, but it should be seen to be done through deeds. So this, if this is clear, then our education system has got to be the chances of improving it. Then we speak about what is this liberty. Liberty to the freedom of individual development is the basis of democracy. You have a education should not be a state control. See here, and the British system also said that it should not be, according to Radhakrishnan, the education should not be under the state control. The moment it becomes a state control, that will become tyranny will rise. He also said the state control act as a mercenaries and promote the political purpose of the state. We must resist our own democracy trend toward government dominance of education. That means we should see to it that the government do not control or dominate the educational process. Unfortunately, we do not have such kind of things happening, and government is now almost taken care of it. Higher education is an obligation of state. So according to him, it was higher education is an obligation of state, and that does not mean that state control over academic, but policies and practices can be, but nothing. He says that the teachers should be paid from the state, but that does not mean that the higher education is under the control of state. Then there should be intellectual progress They demand the maintenance of spirit of free inquiry. That university should release from the control of politics. So this is what that is very important. Then it is it frees us from the shackles of ignorance, prejudice, and unfounded belief. That is why we need liberal education. Then when you talk about equity, we're talking about the democracy, the way of life, equal freedom and equal rights, freedom of conscience, and equal opportunity. Then we should have a community ratio that the minorities, how much minorities are going to school, then downtrodden, all should have the equal right. That equal right will come by the constitution, which is given, justified with equal equality. Then we see that after S. Radhakrishnan for university education, we find that the Indian Education Commission was formulated. Indian Education Commission was formulated in 1964 to 65, 66 by Kotari Commission, Daulat Singh Kotari, D.S. Kotari. The objectives of the Kotari Commission was the commission aimed to create a national system of education, improve quality, relevance, and equality that link education with productivity, social justice, and national integration, promote science and technology, and reduce regional and social disparities. These are the objectives of the uh, Kotari Commission. And the recommendations were structure of 10 plus 2 plus 3 pattern, 10 years for general studies, education, 2 for higher education, 3 for undergraduate education. This structure is still followed in India till the NEP made some modifications. Teachers and teacher education, he said that teachers are the key to educational quality. Teachers need to be trained. Teachers should be paid salary and service conditions should be better. Then he has also recommended the establishment of the teacher education institution. Then you find that the higher education reforms was like strengthening of university, autonomy with accountability, research and postgraduate studies were emphasized, and centers of advanced study to be emerged. Then education and planning at national level and state level must be done. Professionalization of educational administration and better coordination between center and state was the other recommendation. Then he recommended 6% of national income for education, focus on efficient and equitable use of funds. And he made a slogan that the education and national development are inseparable, and this idea became the foundation of later education policies. Thereafter, 1977 and 78, a review of education policy of Kotari was done, and also the NEP, National Policy on Education by Ishwar Bhai Patel. He reviewed the National Policy of Education of 1968, emphasized the value education and adult education expansion, and reviewed the policy education. The National Policy of Education 1986 came to existence with the which is the not a commission but a government policy that included Operation Blackboard. Blackboard should be compulsory to every school, to the everybody, every school. Then began the Navodaya Vidyalaya, adult education literacy, women and SC/ST education, and teacher education strengthening that was based upon the Kotari Commission. Then the Program of Action Committee was formed in 1992 by the chairman of the committee was Ramamurthy Committee, and he said reviewed the 1986 National Policy Education, recommended the decentralization, the national equality, and value-based education and implementation of National Policy Education in 1986. Then National Knowledge Commission was put forth by Chairman of Sam Pitodra, that was in period of 2005 to 2009, and the key recommendation was expansion of higher education, knowledge economy, open universities, and ICT education. 1,500 new universities having a knowledge-based society. So 1,500. So now we have last 10 years we are finding we have reached almost 1,200 universities. But as far the quality is concerned, we do not know what the quality of the universities will be. Then in 2009, Yashpal Committee was constituted by the Professor Yashpal under the committee of Professor Yashpal, and main aim of the committee was to reduce the curriculum overload, to ban the commercialization of education, interdisciplinary learning, improve quality over quantity, and he said learning without burden. Then in 2016, TSR Subramani Committee was recommended, and the key recommendation of the committee was new educational policy, then detention of the policy reform, and teacher accountability. Teachers should be accountability for the work what they done, and regulatory overhaul is needed, and that was the foundation for the national education policy of 2020. The national education policy of 2020, the chairman was Dr. K. Kasturangan, and the key features of this was 5 plus 3, 5, fifth standard, then 8th standard, and then 11th, and then 4-year BSc graduation structure. And all of this will be done through multidisciplinary education. Then you have an academic bank of credit, the multiple entry exit, mother tongue till the grade 5, and holistic and hill based learning. And that this one to replace the National Policy on Education of 1986. So the National Education Policy of 533 plus 4 structure, it was a skill based learning, mother tongue as a media, digital initiatives and Diksha and Swayam was implemented. So this is the chart of university education, which was Radhakrishnan higher education. Secondary education were Budliar, secondary level. Education Commission of Kotari was a whole entire system was reviewed. Review committee of Ishwar Bhai Patel was for policy review. National policy of education was Government of India's education reform. Then POA Ramamurthy is at the implementation, knowledge level commission, Pitodra, knowledge economy, then Yashpal committee with curriculum reforms, TSR committee, NEP drafting, and NEP Kasurangan holistic committee. Now, after doing all these things of expressively, of such a right from our independence, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 committees in 75 years has been come to the existence. But it is doubtful that we really been able to improve our education system. Let us see comparing with the world. Education reforms us worldwide. Sharp difference in student learning around the world. Around the world, we have the educational reforms worldwide that aim to make education equitable, relevant, skill oriented, inclusive, and future ready, responding to globalization, technology, and social changes. What has been observed that the performance of some countries such as Chile and India differ from the scores across the region. Chile's performance is on par with higher performing European countries. Chile's performance was higher par with that of the European countries. while India's performance is on par with lower performing countries like Sub-Sahara Africa. Okay, so you can find that India's position is similar to poor countries in South in Africa. So our reforms, though we are doing the reforms, the reforms are not matching with the 164 countries that was taken into consideration for the studies. Let us see what are the major global drivers of educational reforms. The major global drivers of the educational system or reforms include globalization and knowledge economy, technology advancement with the using the artificial intelligence, ICT, and digital learning, equity and inclusion, that is gender, minorities and disability, skill mismatch and unemployment, sustainable development of goals, including COVID-19 impact on education. We all of us know that the COVID-19 had a great impact in our knowledge system, and that all only opened up for what is called as a digital learning. That is how we were involved worldwide, face a problem, and then we are becoming to what is called a digital. But whether the digital world education is going to replace the physical teaching, that's another issue for to be understood. Now let us see what kind of the education reforms that has happened in the major countries or the developed countries like United States of America. How do they prepare American students for success? You learn why the common core is important for a child. Now you have to learn that. How is the common core is important for a child? That is the what parents should know, myth versus fact. So we have to clear first in the childhood myth and fact. This what is written in the book and what has been taught should be distinguished at the very young age itself. Then they have to common core, then you have to learn with the common core, then you have to explore it. That is the standard resources, what is available, the books, whatever is available, that should be learned, and then we are exploring the resources, whatever. And third one is the process frequently asked question. That is the understand how the common core was created. So you have to know how this common core has been detected from it. That is to understand how the common core. So you are saying here is a learn why the common core. Here you will explore the common core, and here is understand the common core. So thus you find learn, explore, and understand. Learn, explore, and understand the process that is adopted in India. In India, we are doing is a rote education. So major reforms that was conducted in 2011 in United States of America is the No Child Left Behind Act, No Child Left Behind Act of 2001, where it was an accountability and standardizing testing. Then second was brought in 2015 that the Every Student Succeeds Act, that is state was given autonomy. Then common core standards, that is uniform learning and outcomes. Then Strong emphasis on STEM, that is the science, technology, engineering, and math, innovation, and choice based education. So, what we're getting is the issues are over testing, inequality across the school district. That is one only the region that we will say. In United Kingdom, the new education curriculum came up in 2014, but their planning and our planning, there's a lot of difference. We make a curriculum and syllabus and policy, and they try to implement everything. But their program of United States is well defined. 1 year what to do, second year what to do, third year what to do, fourth year what to do, fifth year what to do, and sixth year what is to do. So thus you find that the major reforms that is there has a school is inspection is carried out by the uh, Fostered committee. That is a committee which is there. Officials are posted to see that. Then curriculum focus on literacy, numeracy, and skill, and vocational education reforms. Another very advanced country as far as the education is concerned is the European country called which is called as the Finland, that is the education system, model education system, and this is one of the education system which Arvind Kejriwal, when he was a CM, sent his teachers to Finland, and they were trained from Finland, and he tried to duplicate those college schools in India. Okay, so you can see the blackboard and how much students are there, and see with the figure. But what is interesting in the Finland Committee of 2019 institution that you find the flows of public funding for public primary and lower secondary educational institutions in Finland. So you'll find there is a central government controls all education. Then the central government will fund to the providers of education, and then providers of education will provide it to teaching staff, non-teaching staff, other current expenditure, whatever is there, or capital expenditure. Now, if you see from the Finland, you find there are something about seven things. One of the thing is the thinking skills and learning to learn. Thinking skills, encouragement for that. Then cultural knowledge, collaboration and expression. Then everyday life skills, multi-literacy skills, ICT literacy skills, entrepreneurship skills, and basic worldwide skills. And there is no standardized testing. Highly trained teachers. Even in the lower classes, even the primary education, the teachers has to have a qualification of post graduation. Whereas in India, we do not have the teachers to be highly trained for teaching the uh, schools. Phenomena based learning and focus on equity, not competition. This is we're taken into what is called China. China, the reforms were done in 2009 and 14, where you find expansion of higher education took place. They have included what is called a strong STEM and research. They included strong research, that is STEM and STEAM and research. STEM is the science and technology, engineering, mathematics. STEAM is science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics, and they promote of the technical and vocational education, and they made one of the very great reforms, that is the Guancow reforms, or it is called as China's National College Entrance Examination. Now, according to this China's National College Entrance Examination, these children are supposed to qualify the examination in order to seek admission in universities or in colleges. They have to they have to pass through this, and if they fail to do, then they will not get the admission in the universities or in the colleges. Okay, so it is the most toughest examination that China sees it, and it is the most challenging and higher secondary pressures. This slide shows the reforms on computer. So the technically they are trained for all these things. So this is what the China does it. If you look into Japan they have got more emphasis on moral and character education. They have a active learning. They have a teaching integration. So children integrated teachings. This is also an example of integrated teachings. Moral and characters are highly evolved. Then you find another country of example is Germany. There is a dual system of education, that is school and apprenticeship, strong vocational education, and industry education collaboration. So from school to the world of work, the qualified occupational activity, full-time vocational schools and healthcare sectors will choose a school for 2 to 3 years, and then instead of higher education that takes about 5 years, and then the general school life which takes about 10 to 12, 13 years. So what is the reforms that is observed in the global environment is curriculum, the competency and the skill based, pedagogy, learner centered experimental, then assessment is continuous and formative, technology you are using now AI and digital learning, then equity is inclusion and access, then teachers are professional development, and governance autonomy, accountability. The impact of education reforms, the positive reforms are improved access to education, skill development, global competitiveness, digital inclusion. Challenges are digital divide. Teachers are resisting the digital one, inequality in implementation, and over commercialization. These are the impact of education reforms. Then important thing is the core domain that is assessed is the major domain, minor domain. The major domain divided into minor and major. Reading literacy there is how to understand reading, using and evaluating the text. Mathematical literacy is by applying the mathematics to real world situation. Scientific explaining the phenomena, scientifically evaluating evidence. Additional innovation domain, creative thinking, global competence, finance literacy, and problem solving. We have another system is called PISA program for international student assessment, most toughest examination in the world. Any student of over 15 can write this exam, and exam is basically to involve build of testing involving application, reasoning, and problem solving with these life skill focused or not rote learning, includes student, teachers, and school questionnaires. The scores are reported on a scale of 500 under OECD, which involve countries to country comparison. Unfortunately, India ranking was very, very low program for the international students, even teachers and all. India became a part in 2009, and later India withdrew itself from that this particular program. This is a study thing that we are talking about. digital learning implementation of Israeli higher education. What is done? This was a educational research paper published, and it was in 2023 paper. I taken it from there. Most of some of the charts are from the research papers. I taken it just for the understanding of us. In Israel, the domain education are of four types. One is educational domain, personal domain, cultural and social domain, and institutional domain, where the faculty have to experience these four things. The pedagogical innovations, what in education is needed, what is the active learning, what is the curriculum design, redesign, and professional development. So this is the educational domain. At the personal level, or student teacher interaction at the personal level, one has to be self-directed learning. To direct learning, there is to be an emotional impact with the student, and work life have to be balanced, and adaptability is to be done. At institutional level, it should be technologically infrastructure should be strong, administrative support should be strong, policy implementation has to be strong, and resource allocation to be strong. At cultural and domain level, you have a global connectivity, multicultural sensitivity, and military experiences must in Israel. And where is a Chauruta integration? Chauruta integration is a friendship integration where the one child will make a friendship with another. They will discuss, say, a religious one or epic one, and then they will debate what is right, what is wrong, right. That is allowed and run, and then they are made to evolve into this. Another critical counter terrain of the critical pedagogy and pedagogy and teaching informal education in higher education is critical pedagogy, where knowledge should relate to and develop from the l- lived experience of the participant. That education is inherently political. Knowledge should be co, and you'll find that the approaches and aim for people to become aware of their and others' operations, to people of the make connections between the personal experience and the wider societal development. Then importance for democracy, important for cultivating hope, and curriculum for using authentic material, generative themes, and findings. This is another way of science where we find practicing the wisdom. Wisdom will go to the filtered information to analysis of published studies, then qualitative case studies to be done, then quantitative coherent studies, meta-analysis and systemic. You're coming from increasing data aggregation, synthesis is done. This is a different studies can be done and then coming back to systemic review of what can be done. Another is the learning and teaching. How does university teachers pedagogy training meet topical challenges raised by education? One is learning, then management of education, how to manage education with leadership and curriculum, then professional expertise, the development of integrative, multidimensional responses, then global social and labor market needs, and internalization. Then we find another one studies from 24, according to Kurumi, why adopt a blended learning model if we foster higher levels of student commitment with motivation, promote utilization of digital tool, enable teacher to personalize that learning experience, foster interest in addressing the digital divide and enhance equality, enhance the potential for individual student progress. So this is what is important for when you take a blended teaching. This is the competence based education where transferable knowledge, time, and resources should be effectively used, performance improvement, real life support, flexible, and personalized, customizable. These are some of the academic world, high road transfer, authentic world, and low road transfer, transfer to highly similar authentic task transferred to highly dissimilar authentic, transferred to highly dissimilar academic task, and transferred to highly similar academic task. So low road to this road. So this is the educational development that is taking place in the world. This is the tertiary education, that is the university education system, how it comes. Let us look into how you find India with Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh. You'll find that in India we are introduced 5334, they have 534, and Sri Lanka has 542, and Bangladesh has 534. Then primary education, secondary education, higher education. The governance is central government, state government. The federal government controls, the central government control, the Minister of Education controls. You have IITs, public and private universities in Pakistan, universities of institutes, then public private universities. Then you also have education quality. We are improving. You have a NEP, they have a curriculum, you have varied quality, high literacy rate. Sri Lanka has got a high literacy rate. We are improving, developing challenges. New education policies come up in Bangladesh. Education modernization is done in Sri Lanka. Curricular reforms are done, NDP 2020. Large system of innovation, regional disparity, growing sectors and equity issues are there. High literacy, human resource constraints, and access and overcrowding is there as far as the countries are concerned. When we look into Vedic science, Muslim period, Mughal period, British period, we will find neglect of the Indian culture, elite aristocratic people who study Mughal, and focus on religious subject, and caste restrictions were there the challenges. The knowledge of Vedic was oral, mesmerizing, memorization, prescribed text and examination, classroom lectures and exams. So British and missionaries, mullahs and scholars, ulema scholars and Brahmins were the gurus. Then Vedas, Sanskrit, rituals, Quran, Arabic and English and science and schools. So you find that the Muslim Islamic administrative skills, Islam, Persian culture, and Western cultures are there. These are the most of the open. These are the education in India, where you have a preschool education now, lower elementary education, upper elementary education, secondary education, up to 10th certificate. Thereafter, you have upper education. If you go to polytechnic from 10th, you have a 4 years polytechnic diploma. Then diploma you can enter to university. At the age of year, you get certificate at the university, bachelor's degree from bachelor's to polytechnic universities, then postgraduate diploma, then master's degree, university masters and doctoral thesis, postgraduate. This is a structure of Indian university system, which is practically there is a small differences when they study with other universities. Okay, so I stop this lecture hoping that you must have understood. Okay. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I think we have a last 9 minutes. Can we interact with it? If anything that you want to question it or how the education system is developing in India, anything we can discuss for it. And if you got any question, is fine. Or if you don't have question, then we can stop. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Yes, hi sir. Yes, sir.
Huh. You
Yes,
can
sir. Yes, sir.
yeah, I have finished my thing. You have any interaction to be made, you can make. Or you think it's enough? Understood?
Understood, sir.
Yes, sir.
Understood, huh? Huh. So
Because
you
you
don't
covered all the things starting
Understood.
from like ancient, like 3,000, 5,000 years till the current education.
Huh.
Nice presentation, sir.
Nice presentation. Huh? Have you understood now that how the education evolved right from the
Yes, sir.
agricultural to the recent complex education system, what we are finding after COVID-19?
Yes.
Huh? Okay. Any questions or anything that you want to ask or any discussion? And if no discussion is there, then we can stop it.
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
No, sir, no any question.
No question. Okay, then can I stop it then?
Yes, sir. Thank
Okay
you.
then. Okay. Thank you very much for patient listening.
Hello, sir.
Thank you very much for patient listening.
Thank you, sir, for nice lecture.
Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Huh?
Yes, sir. I want to propose vote of thanks.
Okay. Edu?
Very good evening to one and all. On behalf of Sixteenth Online Faculty Induction Program, Organizing Committee, UGC Malviya Mission, Teachers Training Center, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Marathwada University, Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar. I, Dr. Gayal Baliram Sambhaji, take this opportunity to express our sincere gratitude to our esteemed resource persons, Dr. Raymond Martin sir, for delivering such a insightful and enriching session on education system. His vast experience as an academician and as a researcher has provided us with valuable perspective on education system and its evolutions. The clarity with which Sir has explained complex concept of education system and shared details insight has made this session extremely beneficial to all the participants and especially for a newly inducted faculty members. In simple words, Dr. Martin sir has explained evolution of education and education system such as from ancient Vedic, Islamic ruler education system, Mughal education system, British education system, and different commissions. After that, sir has explained in detail about new Indian education system and different commission such as Radhakrishnan Commission, Indian Education Commission by Kothari, then National Knowledge Commission, and lastly, now we know that NEP, National Education Policy 2020. Again, sir has explained post-COVID changes in education system. We shifted to digital education platform. Now this, again, sir has explained education reforms by different countries such as US, England, Finland, China, Japan, and Israel. We are grateful to him for sparing his valuable time and sharing the expertise with us despite our professional commitments. I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to Director, Deputy Director, coordinators, and technical team of the UGC Malviya Mission Teachers Training Center, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Marathwada University, Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar, for their continuous support in making this online session smooth and successful. Finally, I thank all the faculty participants for their active presence and enthusiastic participation throughout the session. With this, I formally conclude today's session of the 16th Online Faculty Induction Program. Thank you, one and all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.